Hello and welcome to this Beyond Exploring session. I am your host, Robert Crighton. I like to try and remember my name and say it at the beginning of these videos. I frequently don't. Sometimes I don't even mention it at all, and people wonder, who is this person speaking? We are reading today, for the third day in a row, we're reading Thomas of Woodstock, as it is occasionally known. It has other names as well, but the manuscript doesn't actually have a title, so you can call it whatever you want. It's a free universe. We are working from Act 3, Scene 3 until midway into Act 4. If you want to know the story so far, well, go back and watch the previous two videos. I mean, seriously. Why would you start here? Well, that's just strange. Broadly speaking, it's fair to say that the uncles of Richard II do not get on well with the king. One uncle in particular, Thomas of Woodstock, may be heading for trouble in his plain-spokenness, as it were, as Richard and his favourites, who wear some of the most terrifying fashions known to man. Hipsters, trust me, have nothing on these guys. Richard and his minions are very different from the uncles, who are old greybeards, as described in the text, whereas they are of the modern fashion, and they pay for this modern fashion by basically extorting money from the populace. And that's pretty much where we're going to enter the text in Act 3. The people exploring the text with me today are a team of experts and random strangers that we have culled from the internet, who are going to guide you through the text today. So, reading the part of Butcher and Richard II is...
Hello, I'm Simon Nader, and I'm an actor, director, and teacher based in Hertfordshire.
And reading the part of Nimble and Cynthia is...
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a writer, actor, and director.
And reading the parts of Crosby, Tresilian, and the Duchess of Gloucester is...
Hi, I'm Liz Hill, and I'm in North Devon.
And reading the parts of Ignorance, Servant, and Cheney is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian, and I'm currently isolating in Yorkshire.
And reading the part of Whistler and Greene is...
Hi, I'm Pamela Flanagan. I'm an actor based in London, and I will not be doing my own whistling.
Indeed, we have a stunt whistler lined up. Was it Tamara who volunteered to do the stunt
Whistler's
whistling?
mother, obviously. Sorry.
Reading the part of Fleming, serving man, Scroop, Woodstock, and also doing some whistling is...
Hi, I'm Tamara. I am currently in Germany. I'm usually in London, though.
And reading the part of Farmer and Bushy is...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott. I'm based in Suffolk. I'm not a professional actor.
And reading the part of Cowtail, Schoolmaster, and Bagot is...
My name is Alexandra, and I do act professionally.
And I will be reading the stage directions unless I've massively cocked up, in which case I'll be standing in for whichever random person I haven't actually allocated the part to. So, as I say, we are midway through Act 3, and here we have entering to the stage. We've dispensed with the horse. You missed the horse. Go to the end of the last video. There was a horse. It was great. Enter here Master Ignorance, the Bailey of Dunstable. Boom, boom. And Crosby, Fleming, and Nimble with blank charters.
Dispatch, good Master Bailey. The markets are almost done, you see. 'Tis rumoured that the blanks are come, and the rich chuffs begin to flock out of the town. And therefore I charge ye, in the king's name, be ready to assist us.
Nay, look ye, sir, be not too pestiferous, I beseech thee. I have begun myself and sealed one of your blanks already, and by my example there's more shall follow. I know my place and calling. My name is Ignorance, and I am Bailey of Dunstable. I cannot write nor read, I confess it. No more could my father, nor his father. No, none of the ignorance. This 100 year, I assure ye.
Your name proclaims no less, sir, and it has been a most learned generation.
Ah, though I cannot write, I have set my mark. Ecce signum. Read it, I beseech ye.
The mark of Simon Ignorance, the Bailey of Dunstable, being a sheep hook with a tarbox at endot.
Very right. It was my mark ever since I was an innocent. And therefore, as I say, I have begun and will assist ye. For there be rich horsens in the town, I can tell ye, that will give ye the slip, and ye look not to it.
We therefore presently will divide ourselves. You two shall stay here, while we, Master Ignorance, with some of our brethren, the men of Dunstable, walk through the town, noting the carriage of the people. They say there are strange songs and libels cast about the marketplace against my lord Tresilian and the rest of the king's young counsellors. If such there be, we'll have some aid and attach them speedily.
Ye shall do well, sir, and for your better aiding, if you can but find out my brother, Master Ignoramus, he will be most pestiferous unto ye, I assure ye.
I'm afraid he will not be found, sir, but we'll inquire. Come, fellow Fleming, and Nimble, look to the whisperers, I charge ye.
I warrant ye.
Exit Crosby and Fleming.
I warrant ye. Come, Master Bailey, let your bellman retire till we call them, and you and I will here shadow ourselves and write down their speech.
Nay, you shall write, and I will mark, sir.
And enter a farmer, a butcher, and Cowtail, a grazier, very hastily.
And see, here come some already, all rich cubs by the mass. I know them all, sir.
Tarry, good neighbours. Take a knave with ye. What a murrain! Is there a bear broke loose of the town that ye make such haste from the market?
Cowtail? Alexandra? We have lost Alexandra.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Coincided with a massive downpour of rain. She's just washed away some of the participants.
Well, she had a little camera problem earlier, but she's not in the meeting. She is exited. So for the moment, I will read in Cowtail until hopefully she returns. A bear? No, nor a lion baited neither. I tell ye, neighbour, I am more afraid of the bee than the bear. There's wax to be used today, and I have no seal about me. I may tell you in secret, it is a dangerous world towards. For, neighbour, you're a farmer, and I hope there's none but God and good company. We live in such a state, I am e'en almost weary of all, I assure ye. Here's my other neighbour. The butcher that dwells at Hockley has heard his landlord tell strange tidings. We shall be all hoisted, and we tarry here, I can tell ye.
Oh, they begin to murmur. I'll put them all down for whisperers. Master Bailey, what's he that talks so?
His name is Cowtail, a rich grazier that dwells here hard by at Leighton Buzzard.
Cowtail, a grazier, dwelling at Leighton Buzzard, Master Bailey?
Right, sir. Listen again, sir.
Ah, sirrah, and what said the good knight, your landlord neighbour?
Marry, he said, but I'll not stand to you anything, I tell ye that aforehand. He said that King Richard's new counsellors, God amend them, had crept into honester men's places than themselves were, and that the king's uncles and the old lords were all banished the court. And he said flatly, we should never have a merry world as long as it was so.
Butcher, you and your landlord were both hanged for it.
And then he said that there's one Tresilian, a lawyer, that has crept in amongst them and is now a lord, forsooth. And he has sent down into every country of England a sort of black chapters.
Black chapters? In God's name, neighbour, out of what black book were they taken?
Come, they are blank charters, neighbours. I heard them afore, and therefore I made such haste away. They are sent down to the High Shreve with special charge that every man that is of any credit or worship in the country must set their hands and seal to them. For what intent I know not. I say no more. I smell something.
Well, my masters, let's be wise. We are not all one man's. They say there are whispering knaves. Let's hie us home, for I assure you, 'twas told me where I broke my fast this afternoon, that there are about 80 gentlemen in our shire that had set their hands and seals to those blank charters already.
Now, God amend them for it. They have given an ill example we shall be forced to follow.
I would my wife and children were at Jerusalem with all the wealth. I'd make shift for one, I warrant one. Come, neighbours, let's be gone.
Step forward with your bills, Master Bailey. Not too fast, sirs. I charge ye in the king's name to stand till we have done with ye.
St. Benedictine,
what must
what
we do now?
Be not so pestiferous, my good friends and neighbours. You are men of wealth and credit in the country, and therefore, as I myself and others have begun, I charge ye, in his highness' name, presently to set your hands and seals to these blank charters.
Jesu, receive my soul. I'm departed.
I mean, struck too at heart too.
Alas, sir, we are poor men. What should our hands do?
There's no harm, I warrant ye. What need you fear when you see Bailey ignorance has sealed before ye?
I pray you, let's see him, sir.
Here, ye bacon-fed pudding eaters. Are ye afraid of a sheepskin?
Oh, Mass, 'tis somewhat darkly written.
Aye, 'twas done in the night, sure.
Mass, neighbours, here's nothing that I see.
And it can be any harm, think ye, to set your hands to nothing. These blank charters are but little pieces of parchment. Let's set our marks to them and be rid of a knave's company.
As good at first as last. We can but be undone.
Aye, and our own hands undoes us. That's the worst, aunt. Lend your pen, sir.
We must all venture, neighbours. There's no remedy.
They grumble as they do it. I must put them down for whisperers and grumblers. Come, have you done yet?
Aye, sir. Would you and they were sodden for my swine.
Here's wax then, I'll seal them for ye, and you shall severally take them off, and then deliver them as your deeds.
And they seal the charters.
Come, you boar's grease, take of this seal here, so. This is your deed?
Faith, sir, in some respect it is, and it is not.
And this is yours?
Aye, sir, against my will I swear.
Oxjaw, take off this seal. You'll deliver your deed with a good conscience.
That is, sir, against my conscience. God's my witness. I hope ye have done with us now, sir.
No, ye caterpillars, we have worse matters against ye yet. Sirrah, you know what your landlord told ye concerning my Lord Tresilian and King Richard's new favourites, and more than that, you know your own speech. And therefore, Master Bailey, let some of your billmen away with them to the High Shreves presently, either to put in bail or be sent up to the court for privy whisperers.
Their offences are most pestiferous. Away with them.
Now,
Alas,
we
we
shall
shall all be
hang
hanged.
sure.
Okay, we'll just pause there. Welcome back, Alexandra. I hope you're there. I'm sorry, I took your part. It's
That's all right. I'm sorry I dropped out of it. I don't know what happened, but the internet is not my friend today.
No. Just a note also, Alan, maybe just nudge your mic volume up a bit. You're definitely quieter than everyone else.
Right.
Right. Okay. So we've got, in a sense, enacted what we had hinted at in previous scenes about what's going to happen regarding these charters. So it doesn't matter if people have a choice. They sort of have a choice until the big people with pointy things say that you don't have a choice and you have to sign them. And then you still get arrested at the end of the process anyway. I think the precise comedy of this scene so far, we're still mid scene, would come out better with the physical dynamic as well. And because I was reading in, I wasn't quite taking it fully in, and the potential thing. And it's that thing of I don't know. Is Leighton Buzzard a fundamentally funny name even then? I have this about English place names, is that all English place names are fundamentally comic.
Yes.
Steeple Bumstead.
Yes.
One of my favourites.
I live near Nedging with Norton. It's there's just nowhere. There's nowhere. Steeple Bumpstead. It's just they land that way, and I'm assuming it did so then, but I could be wrong. Thoughts?
I, at the risk of going way off topic, this is so 1590s, it isn't true.
Now that's what you call 1592.
Yeah, I mean, this is because I'm working mostly on Star Chamber, and this stuff is coming up. This grudging and whispering and what your landlord said, it's all coming up. Attorney General Cook started going absolutely nuts after this sort of thing and brought it all into Star Chamber in a big way. It's very good. I'm going to be passing this on to a number of legal historians of my acquaintance.
Those lawyers.
It's the second time in as many weeks, isn't it? I think you said similar about famous victories as well.
Well, let's put it this way. I don't leave them alone. And they're polite.
Yes. Other thoughts from the room about what's going on in this scene and the way the comedy, and I think it's fair to say dark comedy, but it's still it's obviously structured as a comedy setup to underline the drama. Thoughts?
I think
No, they don't. Sorry, who's that? Pamela,
go Liz first, then Pamela.
I was just going to say, no matter what they do, they could be muttering, grumbling, singing, whatever. Everything's up for grabs for them to be accused.
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
And if they don't respond, they'll be done for dumb insolence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pamela.
Sorry, I was just going to say pestiferous is my new favourite word. I'm loving the repetition of that and ignorance's use of it.
Don't we just love ignorance and his extended family?
Yeah.
Met ignorance. I know this guy. He's a local government officer. He's very nicely sketched, and there's so much to be got out of that. Proud of his presumably sheep raising ancestry, because he's talking about tarring and for tar box for sheep and things like that. So it's that, oh yes, I'm proud of my ignorance. I am. We've been ignorant man and boy for generations.
And his brother Ignoramus.
Yes.
Made me laugh.
And when he was a child, he was innocent. And innocent.
And now he's just permanently guilty. Any other? I think there's more to mine from this scene. So I think let's get some more meat to play with, as it were. So the officers have taken out the previous 3 victims, and then everyone changes their hats and probably comes straight back on again. So to break that up, Nimble is chatting with Ignorance for a little bit.
Hanging? Nay, that's the least on't. Ye shall tell me that a 12-month hence, else Stand close, Master Bailey. We shall catch more of these traitors presently.
You shall find me most pestiferous to assist ye, and so I pray ye commend my service to your good lord and master. Come, sir, stand close, I see.
Victims number 2, please. Enter Schoolmaster and Serving Man.
Nay, sweet master schoolmaster, let's hear it again, I beseech thee.
Atientia, you're a serving man, I'm a scholar. I have shown art and learning in these verses, I assure ye. And yet, if they were well searched, they're little better than my bells. But the carriage of a thing is all, sir. I have covered them rarely.
Sfoot, the country's so full of intelligences that 2 men can scarce walk together, but they're attached for whisperers.
This paper shall wipe their noses, and they shall not bow to a goose for it. For I'll have these verses sung to their faces by one of my schoolboys, wherein I'll tickle them all in faith. Shalt hear else. But first, let's look. There be no pitchers with ears, nor nettles with eyes about us.
Come, come, all safe, I warrant ye.
Mark then. Here I come over them for their blank charters. Shalt hear else. Will ye buy any parchment knives? We sell for little gain. Whoe'er are weary of their lives, they'll rid them for their pain. Blank charters are they are called. A vengeance on the villain. I would he were both flayed and bald. God bless my lord Tresilian. Is not rare?
Oh, rascals. They're damn 300 fathom deep already.
Nay, look you, sir. There can be no exceptions taken, for this last line helps all, wherein with a kind of equivocation I say, God bless my lord Tresilian. Do you mark, sir? Now, here in the next verse, I run all the flatterers in the court by name. You shall see else. A poison may be green, but Bushy can be no faggot. God mend the king and bless the queen, and 'tis no matter for Bagot. For Scroop he does no good, but if you'll know the villain, his name is now to be understood. God bless my lord Tresilian. I like you this, sir.
Most excellent, faith, sir.
Ho, traitors, Master Bailey. Do your authority.
2 most pestiferous traitors, lay hold of them, I charge ye.
Well, what mean ye, sir?
Nay, talk not, for if ye had 100 lives, they were all hanged. Ye have spoke treason in the 9th degree.
Treason? But ye enter, our good sir, we spoke not a word.
Be not so pestiferous. Mine ears have heard your examinations, wherein you uttered most shameful treason, for ye said, God bless my lord Tresilian.
No treason that, sir.
That shall be tried. Come, Master Bailey, their hands shall be bound under a horse's belly and sent up to him presently. They'll both be hanged, I warrant them.
Well, sir, if we be, we'll speak more we be hanged in spite of ye.
Aye, aye. When you're hanged, speak what you will, we care not. Away with them.
And exit the schoolmaster and the serving man with an officer. We'll just very briefly stop there, as we've got this rotating line of victims. Oh, there's so many things about this. I'm wondering about the various boys' companies here, element of the kind of schoolmasters, schoolboy, getting boys to say scandalous things, because we've noted already that the boys' companies can get away with some pretty filthy stuff. So I'm wondering if that's a modern day parody ? Going on there. There's lots of little half-formed things in my brain which I don't really want to come out with because I think I'm probably going too far. But it's really interesting. Having just said, you can't say anything without being caught by intelligencers, he then goes out of his way to really, really be guilty Or is he sort of hoping that his verse is going to be so convoluted and that no one's going to get that it's satire? I mean, what's the logic of the scene here?
I think he thinks he's really clever.
Mm.
So clever, no one's going to realise.
But what's happened is that things have moved on. So right at the beginning of the scene, no one had heard of blank charters because someone was calling them black chapters. It was a new thing. And then firstly, they've arrived, then they're taken as read, and then there's rumours around that people are being arrested, and then people, I mean, the thing is, we've got a squashing of time here.
In a single scene?
In a single scene, what effectively, you know, you've got a few months. The word gets round that there are intelligences about, and then people start writing songs about there being trouble. It is very compressed.
If this was a film, this would be a montage, wouldn't it? This would fade between these sequences. You know, that's how the modern logic would do it, or because you can do jump cuts and, you know, fade out, and music plays, and you can watch, you know, a montage of shots of people signing charters and you know, different things happen, people being arrested just in the background and stuff like that.
I think it's a nice.
But
yeah, Simon.
You'd need to...
Sorry.
No,
Sorry,
Simon next.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's a nice counterbalance to the previous scene, which I assume you read yesterday as well, because you've got obviously the kind of the insane fashions and all of the stuff that the new court represents, and then you've got, of course, his affectations talking to Woodstock, and then you've got the common men now, who are the ones who obviously really suffer under despots. So I think it's a nicely structured way of going from one to the other.
It is nicely set up. We know which universe we're in. We know what the game is going to be from the moment the scene starts. Helen, did you have more?
No. I have far too much to say.
I'll go around the room then. Any other thoughts on Alexandra?
The line, the country's so full of intelligences that two men can scarce walk together, but they're a touch for whisperers, really kind of reinforces what Helen was saying earlier, that it's such a contemporary bit of commentary, that, isn't it? I feel like there's more in this scene. There is the comedy, there's also the reflection of concerns that were real at the time. But also, I think there's a very interesting structural thing whereby we're being shown, yes, the passage of time, and I think also a way in a compressed way, the fact that this seems to be affecting people of all classes and sort of groups and categories, you know, and that everyone's involved in it on one side or another.
Well, there are the people at the very there are the people at the very top who kind of handed this down. There are the people enforcing it. There are the people, willingly or not, there are the people suffering under it. But even the language seems to transfer down the class system. So somebody earlier called the farmers caterpillars, which is a word that was originally in this play used by Woodstock or another of the uncles against the people around the king. So it's really nice to see those reflections and the way in which not just the charters trickle down, but, you know, the attitudes and the behaviors and the factionalism. That's the word I wanted to use.
Yeah, there's that use of words by your opposition and then using it against them. You know, Nimble's listened at some point, you know, to what's going on in the court, and he's using the same word back at them. It reminds me very much of fake news. Simon, you wanted to say something?
It's gone. Sorry.
And that's fine. Any other thoughts before we finish the scene? Because the scene isn't even over yet.
I'm just wondering, I don't think that the butcher or the farmer or anybody actually says the name of Lord Tresilian. Talk about people coming and the blank charters, and it's only the schoolmaster who should probably know better, but he thinks he's above the law, because he's the one who all the villagers will look up to, who goes as far as making a poem about him and actually naming him.
The butcher had heard of
yeah.
Tresilian,
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's in
but
the
the
early
others
bit, yeah.
had, but the farmer hadn't.
Yeah.
And you know, it's got mangled, so something's got out, but they don't know the details. Whereas, yeah, the schoolmaster has had time to write something.
Always maybe better informed.
Yes. Well, yes. That's the question. Is that it's also what the precise class of the butcher and the farmer and a Cowtail actually are, because it's suggesting that they are actually relatively major landowners, because there's no point bleeding the poor because they've got so little to give.
And one thing that one ought to point out is that Nimble and Ignorance are quite right about the schoolmaster. God bless my Lord Tresilian is in the context a libel against a Chief Justice.
Excellent. We will move and finish the scene. So the schoolmaster and the serving man have exited with some officers or whatever. Stand by, stunt whistler, please. And so Nimble continues speaking.
Close again, Master Bailey. Here comes...
you see,
No?
Master Bailey, what knaves are abroad.
Oh, there, sorry. You see, Master Bailey, what knaves are abroad now you are here? 'Tis time to look about, you see.
I see there are knaves abroad indeed, sir. I speak for mine own part, I will do my best to reform the pestiferousness of the time. And as, for example, I have set my mark on the charters, so I will set mine eyes to observe these dangerous cases.
Victim number 3, please. Enter whistling.
Close again, Master Bailey. Here comes another whisper I see by. Villain! He whistles treason. I'll lay hold of him myself.
Out. Alas, what do you mean, sir?
A rank traitor, Master Bailey. Lay hold on him, for he has most erroneously and rebelliously whistled treason.
Whistled treason? Alas, sir, how can that be?
Very easily, sir. There's a piece of treason that flies up and down this country in the likeness of a ballad. And this being the very tune of it thou hast whistled.
Alas, sir, ye know I spake not a word.
That's all one. If any man whistles treason, 'tis as ill as speaking it. Mark me, Master Bailey. The bird whistles that cannot speak. And yet there be birds in a manner that can speak too. Your raven will call ye rascal, ye crow will call ye knave, Master Bailey. Ergo, he that can whistle can speak, and therefore this fellow hath spoke and whistled treason. How say you, Bailey Ignorance?
Ye have argued well, sir, but ye shall hear me sift him nearer, for I do not think that there are greater heads in this matter. And therefore, my good fellow, be not pestiferous, but say and tell the truth. Who did set you a work? Or what was the cause of your whistling? Or did any man say to you, go whistle?
Not any man, woman, or child. Truly, sir.
No. How durst you whistle then? Or what cause had he to do so?
The truth is, sir, I had lost 2 calves out of my pasture, and being in search for them from the top of the hill, I might spy you 2 in the bottom here, and took ye for my calves, sir. And that made me come whistling down for joy and hope I had found them.
More treason yet? He'd take a courtier and a bailey for 2 calves? To limbo with him. He shall be quartered and then hanged.
Good Master Bailey, be pitiful.
Why, Loy, sir, he makes a pitiful fellow of a bailey too. Away with him. Yet stay a while, here comes your fellows, sir.
Enter Crosby and Fleming.
Now, Master Bailey, are your blanks sealed yet?
They are, sir, and we have done this day most strange and pestiferous service, I assure ye, sir.
Your care shall be rewarded. Come, fellow Nimble, we must to court about other employments. There are already 13,000 blanks signed and returned to the Shreves, and 700 sent up to the court for whisperers, and for which my lord will fetch around some, I doubt it not. Come, let's away.
Aye, aye, we'll follow. Come, ye sheep biter. Is a traitor of all traitors that not only speaks, but has whistled treason. Come, come, sir. I'll spoil your whistle, I warrant ye.
And they exit. And so, yes, the question of what tune that is associated with, in the 1590s with something a bit controversial would they be using? I mean, it's I can only think of thinking ahead to the 1680s and Lily Bolero or something like that, where there is a tune directly associated with some kind of political uprising. So that's a really interesting point. I mean, about what do you whistle at that point? Because I think
the Cussy Wren springs to mind. If you know it.
Not off the top of my head.
Well, I can't whistle either, so I won't try. But certainly I think the lyric of that goes back to John Ball or thereabouts.
It's that kind of thing. Could be associated. Other thoughts in the room about this poor whistler? All he's done is wander on whistling, and they've found the excuse. They have to work hard sometimes to find the excuse, because he wasn't. I wasn't talking. I wasn't whispering anything. You were whistling.
I mean, having said I got in trouble in primary school for whistling.
Simon,
I wrote an essay about why that's bad.
Well, you're an expert. What do tell?
Oh no, I mean, aside from my own experience getting in trouble for whistling, and I don't think I was whistling anything in particular. I literally had learnt whistling the day before, got excited, and the teacher decided that you shouldn't be allowed to whistle when you come back from break. So on the way to the classroom, it wasn't even in the classroom. I was a good girl. But on a less historical note, it reminds me of Robin Hood, the Disney Robin Hood.
Oodalali, golly, what a day.
And sorry, thing about Prince John. And then the sheriff comes back in and starts singing it, and the snake starts singing it, and then he catches them.
In a very modern political way, it does remind me of showing my other hat of writing work about the world since 9/11. About how remarkably easy it is for people to twist any piece of evidence into making their case that someone is a terrorist. And you just need to you can twist anything to make that case, and there have been many examples of that in the last 20 years.
Unless you're white.
Well, not even then sometimes, but generally speaking, it does work on a very gradated scale there. But yeah, it's that thing, the determination. If they're determined to find you guilty, they will find a way.
Thought crime was not a modern invention.
No.
Just a modern description.
So, yes, who?
Sorry. Before
Alexandra,
we started recording, Helen offered a really nice idea that it would be the same tune as the Schoolmaster's song a little earlier, which also supports that thing of it being the passage of time. So it starts off with people not knowing what's going on, then the people who do know are making a comment on it, and then it's, even though the Schoolmaster's been taken, his song lives on. It's being spread, and even the tune of it can now be associated with, because the song is libelous, and therefore so is the melody.
That's a good thought. I mean, I'm not wholly convinced that the Schoolmaster's ditty needs to be a song. It could just be a piece of verse. But I like that idea as a way of of making that argument of that this is a passage of time rather than a demonstration of individual social ignorance or knowledge.
What I learned from ballad historians, and such people do exist, is that there was a repertoire of tunes. So at the top of each ballad, it would be to be sung to the tune of. And these tunes were, it was just a question of the meter. So some of these ballad historians will look at a ballad and say, oh yes, I know what tune that would be sung to, because it fits the pattern of it. The other pattern, which is really nice, is ignorance is questions. Who did set your work, or who was the cause of your whistling, or did any man say to you, go whistle? This is the exact pattern of the prepared interrogatories that you would get for the commissioners to take evidence in a Star Chamber case. It looks a little strange there on the page, but it would then say, answer yea or no.
It has it again, modern a bit like the McCarthy trials as well. Of have you been a member of the Communist Party? These constant repeated questions again and again and again. Until you get the answer that you want.
I was going to say that the first thing that came to my mind through the whole thing was really it's Stalinist Russia. You could easily set this in Stalinist Russia, and we sometimes think that kind of repressive states are a modern construct, but of course you only need to look in history, and pretty much it's the exact opposite. It's only now that we're aware of what liberty is that's now not the norm. Of course, we forget that for most people, you could be at the whim of a ruler.
Yeah, I mean that's the question: is there a modern song or modern music which would feel appropriately political for us today that we could use in a modern production? I am going to say that just everyone's got a very good example.
Oh, Tannenbaum.
Political?
Christmas trees.
Come on, you know the other lyrics to that one.
Yes.
The people's flag is deepest red.
It's got to rhyme with martyred dead.
Yeah, but I'm not even sure if that would fully land. No. But anyway, I'm going to force the pace because we've lingered on this scene for an incredibly long time.
It deserves it.
It does indeed. It does indeed. But I'm going to force us back into the heart of this corruption. As we move into Act 4, and we've heard about Tresilian. We haven't seen him for a little while, so let's go back to Act 4, Scene 1, where we enter Tresilian with writings, and he's got a servant with him with bags of money.
Sirrah, are the bags sealed?
Yes, my lord.
Then take my keys and lock the money in my study safe. Bar and make sure I charge ye. So be gone.
I will, my lord.
So, £7,000 from Bedford, Buckingham and Oxfordshires. These blanks already have returned the king. So then there's 4 for me and 3 for him. Our pains in this must needs be satisfied. Good husbands will make hay while the sun shines, and so must we, for thus conclude these times. So men be rich enough, they're good enough. Let fools make conscience how they get their coin. I'll please the king and keep him in his grace, for princes' favours purchase land apace. These blanks that I have scattered in the realm shall double his revenues to the crown.
And enter Bushy and Scroop.
Now, Lord Tresilian, is this coin come yet?
King Richard wants money. You're too slack, Tresilian.
Some shires have sent, and more, my lords, will follow. These sealed blanks I now have turned to bonds, and these shall down to Norfolk presently. The chuffs with much ado have signed and sealed, and here's a secret note my men have sent of all their yearly states amounts unto, and by this note I justly tax their bonds. Here's a fat whoreson in his russet slops, and yet may spend £300 by the year, the third of which the hog face owes the king. Here's his bond for it, with his hand and seal, and so by this I'll sort each several sum. The thirds of all shall to King Richard come. How like you this, my lords?
Most rare, Tresilian, hang 'em cod's heads. Shall they spend money and King Richard lack it?
Are not their lives and lands and livings his? Then rack them thoroughly.
Oh, my lords, I have set a trick afoot for ye, and ye follow it hard and get the king to sign it. You'll be all kings by it.
Farming out the kingdom? Tush, Tresilian, 'tis half granted already. Had been fully concluded had not the messenger returned so unluckily from the Duke of Gloucester, which a little moved the king at his out and called stubbornness. But to make all whole, we have left that smooth-faced, flattering Greene to follow him close, and he'll never leave till he has done it, I warrant ye.
There's no question on't. King Richard will betake himself to a yearly stipend, and we for by lease must rent to the kingdom.
Rent it and rack it too, ere we forfeit our leases, and we had them once. How now, Bagot? What news?
All rich and rare. The realm must be divided presently, and we four must farm it. The leases are a-making, and for £7,000 a month, the kingdom is our own, boys.
So, let's differ for no price, and it were £70,000 a month. We'll make somebody pay for it.
Where is his highness?
He will be here presently to seal the writings. He's a little angry that the Duke comes not, but that will vanish quickly. On with your soothest faces, you wenching rascals. Humour him finely, and you're all made for it.
Enter the king, Greene and others.
See, he comes, and that flattering hound, Greene, close at elbows.
Come, we must all flatter if we mean to live by it.
Our uncle will not come then.
That was his answer, flat and resolute.
Was ever subject so audacious?
And can your grace, my lord, digest these wrongs?
Yes, as a mother that beholds her child dismembered by a bloody tyrant's sword. I tell thee, Bagot, in my heart remain such deep impressions of his churlish taunts, there's nothing can remove the gall thereof, till with his blood mine eyes be satisfied.
Sfoot, raise powers, my lord, and fetch him thence perforce.
I dare not, Greene, for while he keepseth a country, there is no meddling. He's so well beloved, as all the realm will rise in arms with him.
Sfoot, my lord, and you'd fain have him. I have a trick shall fetch him from his house at Bushy, in spite of all his favourites.
Let's have it, Tresilian. Thy wit must help, or all's dashed else.
Then thus, my lord, whilst the Duke securely revels in the country, we'll have some trusty friends disguise themselves like maskers, and this night ride down to Bushy, and in the name of some near adjoining friends, offer their sports to make him merry, which he no doubt will thankfully accept. Then in the mask we'll have it so devised, the dance being done and the room voided then, upon some occasion, single the Duke alone, thrust him in a masking suit, clap a visit on his face, and so convey him out of the house at leisure.
How if he cry and call for help?
Oh, what serves your drums but to drown his cries? And being in a mask, 'twill never be suspected.
Good, i' faith. And to help it, my lord, Lapoule, the governor of Calais, is new come over, who, with a troop of soldiers closely ambushed in the woods near the house, shall shroud themselves till the mask be ended. Then, the Duke being attached, he shall be there ready to receive him, hurry him away to the Thames side, where a ship shall be laid ready for his coming. So, clap him under hatches, hoist sails, and secretly convey him out of the realm to Calais. And so, by this mean, ye shall prevent all mischief, for neither of your uncles nor any of the kingdom shall know what's become of him.
I like it well, sweet Greene, and by my crown, we'll be in the mask ourself, and so shall you. Get horses ready, this night we'll ride to Bushy. But see ye carry it close and secretly, for whilst this plots are working for the Duke, I'll set a trap for York and Lancaster. Go, Tresilian, let proclamation straight be sent, wherein thou shalt accuse the Dukes of treason, and then attach, condemn, and close imprison them. Lest the commons should rebel against us, we'll send unto the King of France for aid, and in requital will surrender up our force of Guines and Calais to the French. Let crown and kingdom waste, yea, life and all, before King Richard see his true friends fall. Give order our disguises be made ready, and let Le Poule provide the ship and soldiers. We will not sleep, by heaven, till we have seized him.
Okay, I'm just going to pause us there. Well, sort of mid-scene. There isn't a particularly neat place to pause, but that seems as neat a place as any. Lots of things going on here. I love that there's a lot about Tresilian here where he's really speaking. We were talking about how Nimble feels very much like it's a clown part. Tresilian does feel like he's the vice character from something a bit earlier. Especially here, he's reminding me very much of in Respublica, Avarice, constantly picking up his bags of money, which is a particularly grotesque thing. But, you know, it's just the way he's calmly going 4 for me, 3 for them, 4 for me, 3 for them. And there's lots of other antecedents in that kind of thing as well. The cynicism of the minions, they're really not loyal to anyone, are they? You know, it's really coming through here. They're happy to rent out the kingdom. The kingdom is being privatized, and that's the system we're going for now.
They're an interesting mix of early HMRC and the mafia. Here we have the genesis.
I was thinking hedge fund managers.
Yeah, it's
definitely.
It's sell everything off now and rent it back later. And then I just love before the king comes in, we get this. The king's a little angry the Duke's not come, but he'll get over it. And we're going, no, he won't. They haven't read the king at all. So that's a fascinating bit before the king comes in. Thoughts on before the king comes in? All of that stuff.
It's a tiny thing.
Pamela.
It's a tiny thing on Tresilian and the 3 for you and 4 for me. I was watching my niece on Zoom the other day, and she was dividing up sweets between her and her little brothers, and it was exactly that. It was like 1 for me, 1 for you, 1 for you, 2 for me, 1 for you, 1. And it's so kind of. I was kind of charmed by it, but it's also, oh God, that's not going to end well.
You've actually made a really good parallel though, because of course the early part of the play says about how you've got wisdom and age that can rule effectively, and then you've got youth and the kind of misguidance or stupidity or ignorance maybe. So you're right, that kind of parallel of how a child sees the world in a very selfish way pretty much reflects the court under Richard to me. I think that's actually really interesting.
Other thoughts?
Farming was the way that the country was run. I mean, the maiden taxes were farmed out. A consortium or a single person would actually buy the tax from the crown, who then got ready money, and they then put their own collectors in to raise it. It was a pernicious system. That everybody did badly out of it except the farmer. And actually, quite often the farmer went bust too, because they couldn't get because people were so resistant to paying. So it was a bad system all round, but it was the only one they had. But farming the whole kingdom was new.
Yeah.
Nobody did that.
Yeah. I mean, it's the fact that everybody is working a slightly different angle. They are different, these villains. And the way they talk about Greene when he comes in, that flattering hound Greene, as opposed to who?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just about to say that actually. That's a lovely little exchange between Bushy and Scroop because, yeah, first of all, the way he's dissing Greene is just hilarious, given who he is. And then Scroop's reply is just fantastic. Come, we must all flatter if we mean to live by it. It's just so open and like cynical, and it's a lovely little exchange that just encapsulates who all these people are.
Yeah,
Get that sense of who's closest to the king and who is physically closest to the king is very much Greene.
It's just it's very cynically very cynical as well. It's like that. It's man as a wolf to man. It's right there. You know, that's
and
what
then
money
Richard
does as well.
And then Richard himself comes in, and I mean, some of his language is so aggressive. As a mother that beholds a child dismembered by a bloody tyrant's sword. I mean.
Yeah.
We were talking about how extremely anti-king this is. This play, it doesn't pull any punches with its depiction of Richard or his followers. And he's not only happy to go with this plot, he insists that they are all made culpable in it. You know, I will actually do it. I will be there. He's not sending some random murderer off to kidnap the Duke. He's going to actually turn up himself.
What's so interesting is, like, in the early part of the play as well, the uncles still have some hope that they can. I think they make an analogy about writing his course somewhere, if I remember.
Yes.
And yet, from the moment he's on, it's not going to happen. Like, he doesn't seem to have much in the way of redeeming features.
Well, they thought he'd calm down when they married him off to Anne. I mean, they explicitly say, hopefully she'll calm him. And here he is coming in with Greene. And so there is a subtext here about what that is saying about him and his followers, which is not something necessarily we would push today.
And he's threatening the ultimate in bad kingly behaviour, in that he is going to offer the King of France Guienne and Calais. And I mean, all right, it's been 50 years since Calais was lost, but
it's smart.
in 1596 there was a plan to retake it. It didn't come to anything, but they still cared.
Yeah, for the king to say, "Let's give up bits of France," and Calais especially, it's a big signpost saying this guy isn't one of us.
Yeah.
To the audience then.
And Cowtail is a hero.
Yeah, yes. Liz.
No, I was just going to say he's forgotten his concerns from yesterday when he was saying we have to be careful about what the commoners think because they're quite close to Thomas Woodstock, they're on his side, etc. He's forgotten all that.
He's half forgotten it because he's the second plot to about his other uncles is to sort of blame them for everything, and so yeah, he's obviously gone. Well, the plan to get Woodstock on side or use him as a human shield isn't going to work. So let's get him out of the way and blame the uncles, who at the time probably were blamed because to some degree at the time they probably were very guilty. Again, just like to just keep pointing out that Lancaster was not a popular man.
But the reason for putting Calais at risk is that lest the commons should rebel against us, we'll send unto the King of France for aid. So he hasn't lost sight of the fact.
He's just come up with a terrible, terrible plan. It's all about saving himself, not about doing good for the kingdom, which again reminds us of certain leaders around the world.
And it is totally short term.
Yeah,
have to excuse me just for a sec.
That's all right.
It's also he's so intense. Like that line, Bagot says, "And can your grace, my lord, digest these wrongs? Yes, as a mother that beholds her child dismembered by a bloody tyrant's sword." That is way out of proportion to what he's being asked about. Because Bagot's basically said, "Oh, your uncles refused your request to come to court." It's like, okay, it's a slight, but that image that he conjures, it's so bitter and intense. I mean, the hatred, the level of hatred is way out of proportion to the crime. So there's that kind of, that he's so entangled with his own grievances that he doesn't really care about how they play out in terms of the damage he does to his own country. It's just about, he's got such a level of resentment there that it's just all about, getting revenge on his uncle and righting those wrongs and not appearing, meting out punishment for the fact that he's been slighted. It's
again,
like,
there's no connection with any modern day political leaders that we can think of at all who would worry about their own position, their own forward, and any personal slights put against them being magnified beyond all proportion. I mean, that just doesn't happen. I'm going to push us forward a little, because that's the king's business. But remember what the minions' agenda in this is, and that's what's going to come up in the next little sequence as we go forward. So the king has put forward his great plan. It's a great plan. It's the best plan. It's the best possible plan ever. It's a bigly great plan. So
have people been telling you this?
No.
Lots of people have been telling me this.
Yes. So anyway, Bushy is going to push and Greene, etc. They're all going to be pushing for something else. So Bushy, take up the cudgels.
Foot, urge our suit again. He will forget it else.
These traitors once surprised, then all is sure. Our kingdom quiet, and your state secure.
Most true, sweet king. And then, your grace, as you promised, farming out the kingdom to us four shall not need to trouble yourself with any business. This old Turcock Tresilian shall look to the law, and we'll govern the land most rarely.
So, sir, the love of thee and these, my dearest Greene, hath won King Richard to consent to that for which all foreign kings will point at us, and of the meanest subjects of our land we shall be censured strangely when they tell how our great father toiled his royal person, spending his blood to purchase towns in France, and we, his son, to ease our wanton youth, became a landlord to this warlike realm, rent out our kingdom, like a pelting farm that erst was held as fair as Babylon, the maiden conqueress of all the world.
Svut, what need you care what the world talks? You still retain the name of king, and if any disturb ye, we four come presently from the four parts of the kingdom with 4 peasant armies to assist you.
You four must be all then, for I think nobody else will follow you unless it be to hanging.
Why, Richard, King Richard, will ye be as good as your word and seal the writings? Svut, and thou does not, and I do not join with thine uncles and turn traitor, would I might be turned to a toadstool.
Very well, sir. They did well to choose you for their orator that has King Richard's love and heart in keeping. Your suit is granted, sir. Let's see the writings.
They're here, my lord.
View them, Tresilian, then we'll sign and seal them. Look to your bargain, Greene, and be no looser, for if you forfeit or run behindhand with me, I swear I'll both imprison and punish ye soundly.
Forfeit, sweet king. Sblood, I'll sell their houses ere I'll forfeit my least. I warrant thee.
If they be stubborn, do, and spare not, rack them soundly, and we'll maintain it. Remember ye not the proviso enacted in our last parliament, that no statute, were it ne'er so profitable for the commonwealth, should stand in any force against our proceedings?
'Tis true, my lord. Then what should hinder ye to accomplish anything that may best please your kingly spirit to determine?
True, Greene, and we will do it in spite of them. It's just, Tresilian.
Most just, my liege. These gentlemen here, Sir Henry Greene, Sir Edward Bagot, Sir William Bushy, and Sir Thomas Scroop, all jointly here stand bound to pay your majesty or your deputy, wherever you remain, £7,000 a month for this your kingdom, for which your grace, by these writings, surrenders to their hands all your crown lands, lordships, manors, rents, taxes, subsidies, 15s, imposts, foreign customs, staples for wool, tin, lead and cloth, all forfeitures of goods or lands confiscate, and all other duties that is, shall, or may appertain to the king or crown's revenues. And for non-payment of the sum or sums aforesaid, your majesty to seize the lands and goods of the said gentlemen above named, and their bodies to be imprisoned at your grace's pleasure.
How like you that, Greene? Believe me, if you fail, I'll not favour ye a day.
I'll ask no favour at your hands, sir. Ye shall have your money at your day, and then do your worst, sir.
'Tis very good. Set to your hands and seals. Tresilian, we make you our deputy to receive this money. Look strictly to them, I charge ye.
If the money come not to my hands at the time appointed, I'll make them smoke for it.
Aye, aye, you're an upright justice, sir. We fear ye not. Here, my lord, they're ready, signed and sealed.
Deliver them to his majesty, all together as your special deeds.
Bagot? Who is muted?
Apologies, I seem to be lost.
Page 53.
We do with humble thanks unto His Majesty. It might not be Bagot, to be fair. I have got an alternative. It could be everybody says this as they hand their signed documents to the forward. So that might be actually a possible there.
Not Bagot.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. It could be everybody, but you say it anyway.
I'll go for it. We do with humble thanks unto your majesty, unto his majesty, that makes us tenants to so rich a lordship.
Keep them, Tresilian. Now will we sign and seal to you. Never had English subjects such a landlord.
Nor never had English king his subjects as we four, that are able to farm a whole kingdom and pay him rent for it.
Look that ye do. We shall expect performance speedily. There's your indenture signed and sealed, which is our kingly deed we here deliver.
Thou never didst a better deed in thy life, sweet bully. Thou mayest now live at ease. We'll toil for thee and send thy money in tumbling.
We shall see your care, sir. Reach me the map, we may allot their portions and part the realm amongst them equally. You four shall here by us divide yourselves into the 39 shires and counties of my kingdom. Parted thus, come stand by me and mark those shires assigned ye. Bagot, thy lot betwixt the Thames and sea thus lies: Kent, Surrey, Sussex, Hampshire, Berkshire, Wiltshire, Dorsetshire, Somersetshire, Devonshire, Cornwall. Those parts are thine as ample, Bagot, as the crown is mine.
All thanks, love, duty to my princely sovereign.
Bushy, from thee shall stretch his government over these lands that lie in Wales, together with our counts of Gloucester, Worcester, Hereford, Shropshire, Staffordshire, and Cheshire. There's thy lot.
Thanks to my king that hath honoured me.
Sir Thomas Scroop, from Trent to Tweed, thy lot is parted thus: all Yorkshire, Derbyshire, Lancashire, Cumberland, Westmoreland, and Northumberland receive thy lot, thy state and government.
With faith and duty to your highness' throne.
Now, my Greene, what have I left for thee?
Svut, and you'll give me nothing. Then good night, landlord. Since you have served me last, and I be not the last, shall pay your rent, Ne'er trust me.
I kept thee last to make thy part the greatest. See here, sweet Greene, these shires are thine, even from the Thames to Trent. Thou here shalt lie, in the middle of my land.
That's the best in the winter. Is there any pretty wenches in my government?
Guess that by this. Thou hast London, Middlesex, Essex, Suffolk, Norfolk, Cambridgeshire, Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire, Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire, Northamptonshire, Rutlandshire, Leicestershire, Warwickshire, Huntingdonshire, and Lincolnshire. There's your Persian, sir.
Slid, I will rule like a king amongst them, and thou shalt reign like an emperor over us.
Thus have I parted out my whole realm amongst you. Be careful of your charge and government. And now, to attach our stubborn uncles. Let warrants be sent down. Tresilian, for Gaunt and York, Surrey and Arundel, while we this night at Bushy suddenly surprise plain Woodstock. Being parted thus, we shall with greater ease arrest and take them. Your places are not sure while they have breath. Therefore, pursue them hard. Those traitors gone, the staves are broke, the people lean upon, and you may guide and rule them at your pleasures. Away to Pleshy, let our mass be ready. Beware, plain Thomas, for King Richard comes resolved with blood to wash all former wrongs.
And trumpets sound, and everyone exits. So it's interesting, actually. Richard isn't keen on the privatisation. He has to be pushed into it.
He's a very careful businessman. Yeah.
I mean, he does. He folds like a cheap cigar, but you know, it's and there's almost this production line of stamping documents and sorting everything out. It's, you know, when they say here, they're here, my lord, you can see almost all of them whipping out paper and just
slavering. Yeah.
And then we get this very interesting, possibly visual element here of the dividing of the kingdom, because as we all know, dividing the kingdom in drama always goes really well. You know, last week we did Gorboduc in the evening. We haven't done the play on King Lear and Cordelia, and just that dividing the kingdom inevitably leads to civil war and death is so plain here, and it's almost actually that bit with Greene at the end there. You know, it's very affectionate with Greene. You can tell Greene's definitely the favourite. No envy for the rest of the court, but that last bit, you know, thou shalt reign like an emperor over us, felt very Tamburlaine-y as well. A lot of the scenes in this sequence have really felt like there are little callbacks all the way through as everybody becomes you know, landlord and tenants, and the country is sold off. It speaks very much to modern questions of privatization and what the state owns and what individuals do. Thoughts? We have one scene to go, but we've got a few minutes to talk about this scene.
Did I misread that? Is there a threat in Sfoot and thou dost Greene speaking, and thou dost not, and I do not join with thine uncles and turn traitor, would I might be turned to a toadstool? It's almost like he's saying, if you don't keep to your word, I might go over to the other side. Which is quite a surprising thing to say.
Which suggests that they are close, that he's
pushing his luck. Yeah. Yes.
Well, I read it more as if you have no cause to think that I will do that. If I would do, then turn me to a toadstool. That's how I read it. But that's interesting. Okay.
Well,
no,
I mean,
not saying you're wrong at all.
Presumably, they know the geography well enough, you know, to count the cards and say how much is left in the deck. So maybe it's mock petrol. I think there's a room for manoeuvre with the actor as to how to play that. Actually, I mean, there's a lot of. It's usual. All the relationships are really conditional on each other in this.
But to be so direct as to say, if you don't give me what I want, I'll betray you. Though that's a very special relationship, or an aside.
Well, no, he reacts to it.
Sorry?
Doesn't he react very directly to it, though?
Okay.
Um,
It does seem to be a back and forth thing, you know.
Yeah.
Greene threatens to rebel. Richard threatens to punish him if he doesn't pay his taxes, and so on. So what I found it very interesting that what this scene as it goes on shows us is the fractured nature of the connection between all of the sycophants as well. They're not a team of four who have prevailed on the king to give them what they want. They're four individuals, and each of them is out for themselves, with little bits of, you know, of envy and of feeling unjustly dealt with, and all of this between them.
And that's why I mentioned Respublica earlier. There's a very similar relationship between the minions in that, who are persuading the government of the kingdom to basically give them authority to milk the kingdom for all it's worth. And I'm increasingly getting the feeling that this is a playwright who really does know some you know, that knows their play history from, you know, the last 50 years of publishing, not just what's happening on the stage now. Though that could just be projection, because I don't know. Thoughts in the room? Liz first, then Helen.
Just the other thing as well that came to mind, King Richard is all talking about blood, you know, resolve with blood, and it's not the first time he mentioned blood. But the idea is that that Thomas Woodstock is to be conveyed to Calais, dead or alive, because there's all this talk of blood, and there's a bit of a mixed message coming over here.
I think the plan is alive, but are they that fussed about whether he survives or not? I think that,
because I think it's said a few times explicitly that if there's any evidence that they've killed him, then the Commons will revolt, and I think that's what it's about. But
when people murder people, they're usually very careful not for there to be no blood or no signs of violence on bodies. You know, so you've got plausible deniability. So maybe blood is all about
words.
You know, no, he's willing to go. He's willing for people to die. I mean, he's perfectly content. So yeah, I don't think it's literal blood, but it's the potential. It's violent potential, perhaps.
Also, just a tiny little interesting moment here. In the same scene, Richard has said, "We're sending Woodstock to Calais," and has also said, "We're giving Calais to the French."
Yes.
Well, we're offering it as a security in case we need their troops, rather than giving it.
I just thought it's a very neat way of getting rid of a problem.
Any other thoughts before we move into the final scene for this session?
Yes, I think that we've looked at the relationship between the minions, but I think there's another interesting relationship between the minions and Tresilian, because they're not on the same team.
Yeah, they don't trust him with the money at all, do they?
And no,
Rightly
and they spend quite a lot of time trying to put him down. They come in and try and give him orders, and they say, "Where is this money? It's coming in far too slowly." But Tresilian never reacts to them. He just waits until they need him, and then he produces. It's very... Tresilian is a lot cleverer than they are.
Well, it's that a level of age difference as well. You know, we got the impression that Tresilian is probably, 5-10 years older than the minions, and
at least.
But he's not an old figure in the way that the uncles are. He's a professional man in the middle of a career, and that sort of fits very well. Liz?
In that scene, the way Richard changes very quickly from to dealing out the land and everything, you just wonder whether there's been something said between him and Tresilian at some point that he knows there's a get-out clause. I don't know. It's just because there's such a switch.
I don't know. I think there's a wider question about King Richard and throughout the play, actually, that I think we'll be able to look at a separate session to try and see what that progression is, because I think he is a bit mercurial at times. I think I'm not quite feeling I don't know whether that's just because we've been looking at it separate days, different readers, but it doesn't quite seem consistent sometimes.
That ties in though with that thing of him feeling so intensely.
Mm.
I mean, people who feel slights that intensely, I mean, they do tend to be mercurial, don't they? They're up and down. One day everything's fine, and the next day it's like, oh, I want his blood. It does all kind of fit with his behaviour that he would be mercurial.
And also, if we look at the inconsistencies as different points on a trajectory rather than as lines, then it's a journey that he takes from going from someone who's under the thumb of his uncles by necessity to taking power to being a proper tyrant.
Yeah,
it's typical kind of repressed teenager angst, you know. But it is, isn't it? It's, you denied me my wattle, and now I've got it. I'm going to take it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is if we look at the character in isolation, we'll be able to find those points. And, you know, I'm not saying that there isn't a dramatic logic to it. It's just the way it comes across in this process. But I think there's... Yeah, Simon.
Sorry, I was just going to say that the main thing I think is that it's, you know, somebody who wants the title of king but has no clue whatsoever, or no wish to actually yield the trappings of the power that makes you responsible. And I think that's the main thing, is that I think that's whenever there's anything with King Richard, it's always a really interesting dynamic. This is probably for your other session, of course, but yeah, just that kind of that need for power, as a lot of modern day politicians are, without the actual understanding of what that entails. Good king, bad king. It's always a really interesting thing in anything of the period, of course.
Okay, we are going to move into the final scene for this session. We got some bad news coming up, people. You know, bad news about one of our favourite characters so far, the nice one.
The
in
horse?
the play.
The horse.
There is a nice character. We've met
The horse
one.
has been eaten.
No, he hasn't.
No, not the horse.
The horse has been retired to a nice farm.
Yeah, Woodstock
always
didn't give him back. He kept him on. You know, he's grazing out in Plashy. It's
I
fine.
had a nice chat with him before,
It's
didn't
at the
he?
knacker's yard.
He's the glue that's keeping the parchments together.
Considering how many sheep must have died for the charters themselves, I mean, it's positively depressing. Anyway, we have news about the Queen. So in the opening of this scene, so we have the enter Woodstock and his Duchess, Duchess of Gloucester, with a gentleman and Cheney and others.
The Queen is sick. Come, make haste, good wife. Thou'd be belated, sure, 'tis night already. On with thy cloak and mask, to horse.
Good troth, my lord, I have no mind to ride. I have been dull and heavy all this day. My sleeps were troubled with sad dreams last night, and I am full of fear and heaviness. Pray let me ride tomorrow.
What, and the Queen so sick? Away, for shame. Stay for a dream? Thou'st dreamt, I'm sure, this.
Never so fearful were my dreams till now. Had they concerned myself, my fears were past, but you were made the object of mine eye, and I beheld you murdered cruelly.
Murdered? Alack, good lady, didst thou dream of me? Take comfort then, all dreams are contrary.
Pray God it proves so, for my soul is fearful. The vision did appear so lively to me. Methought as you were ranging through the woods, an angry lion with a herd of wolves had in an instant round encompassed you, when to your rescue, gainst the course of kind, a flock of silly sheep made head against them, bleating for help, against whom the forest king roused up his strength and slew both you and them. This fear affrights me.
Oh my God, thou'rt foolish. I'll tell thee all thy dream. Thou knowest last night we had some private talk about the blanks the country's taxed withal. Well, I compared the state as now it stands, meaning King Richard and his harmful flatterers, unto a savage herd of ravening wolves, the commons to a flock of silly sheep, who, whilst their slothful shepherd careless stood, those forest thieves broke in and sucked their blood. And this their apprehension took so deep, the form was The form was portrayed lively in thy sleep. Come, come, 'tis nothing. What, are her horses ready?
They are, my lord.
Where's the gentleman that brought this message? Where lies the queen, sir?
At Sheen, my lord, most sick and so much altered as those about her fears her sudden death.
Oh, forfend it, heaven! Awake, away, make haste, I charge ye. What, weeping now? Afford my God that fond. Come, come, I know thou art no augurer of ill. Dry up thy tears. This kiss and part. Farewell.
That farewell from your lips to me sounds ill. Where'er I go, my fears will follow still.
See her to horseback, Cheney.
And exit the Duchess with the rest. Woodstock is left alone after hearing the second presage of doom in the play.
Oh my God, 'tis late, and but important business craves such haste. She had not gone from Plashy House tonight. But woe is me, the good Queen Anne is sick, and by my soul, my heart is sad to hear it. So good a lady, and so virtuous, this realm for many ages could not boast of. Her charity hath stayed the commons' rage, that would ere this have shaken Richard's chair, or set all England on a burning fire. And for my God, I fear when she is gone, this woeful land will all to ruin run. How now, Cheney? What, is thy lady gone yet?
She is, my lord, with much unwillingness, and 'tis so dark I cannot blame her grace. The lights of heaven are shut in pitchy clouds, and flakes of fire run tilting through the sky, like dim ostents to some great tragedy.
God bless good Annabeam. I fear her death will be the tragic scene the sky foreshows us. When kingdoms change, the very heavens are troubled. Pray God, King Richard's wild behaviour force not the powers of heaven to frown upon us. My prayers are still for him. What thinkst thou, Cheney? May not plain Thomas live a time to see this state attain her former royalty? For God, I doubt it not. My heart is merry, and I am suddenly inspired for mirth. What sport shall we have tonight, Cheney?
I'm glad to see your grace addicted so, for I have news of sudden mirth to tell ye, which till I heard you speak I durst not utter. We shall have a masque tonight, my lord.
A mask thou, says thou. What are they, Cheney?
It seems, my lord, some country gentlemen, to show their dear affection to your grace, proffer their sports this night to make you merry. Their drums have called for entrance twice already.
Oh, are they so near? I prithee let them enter. Tell them we do embrace their loves most kindly. Give order through the house that all observe them.
And exit Cheney. There's going to be various entrances and exits of servants and Cheney in the moment. I won't read those out as they come.
We must accept our loves, although the times are no way suited now for masks and rebels. What ho, within there?
My lord?
Prepare a banquet. Call for lights and music. They come in love and will accept it so. Some sport as well. We're all too full of woe.
There come, my lord.
They all are welcome, Cheney. Set me a chair. We will behold their sports in spite of care.
So that next line is not a line, it's actually a stage direction. So there's a flourish, there's a great shout and winding of horns, then enters Cynthia.
From the clear orb of our ethereal sphere, bright Cynthia comes to hunt and revel here. The groves of Caledon and Arden woods, of untamed monsters, wild and savage herds, we and our knights have freed, and hither come to hunt these forests, where we hear there lies a cruel and tusked boar, whose terror flies through this large kingdom, and with fear and dread strikes her a massed greatness pale and dead. And having viewed from far these towers of stone, we heard the people, midst their joy and moan, extol to heaven a faithful prince and peer that keeps a court of love and pity here. Reverent and mild his looks. If such there be, this state directs, great prince, that you are he. And ere our knights to this great hunting go, before your grace they would some pastime show, in sprightly dancing. Thus they bade me say, and wait an answer, to return or stay.
Oh no, for heaven's pity let them come, I prithee. Pretty device, in faith. Stand by, make room there. Stir, stir, good fellows, each man to his task. We shall have a clear night. The moon directs the mask.
Enter King Richard, Greene, Bushy, Bagot, like Diana's knights, led in by 4 other knights in green, with horns about their necks and boar spears in their hands. There is, in theory, music.
A country sport, say ye? For God, 'tis courtly. A general welcome, courteous gentlemen, and when I see your faces, I'll give it each man more particular. If your entertainment fail your merit, I must ask pardon. My lady is from home, and most of my attendants wait on her. But we'll do what we can to bid you welcome. For my God, it joys my heart to see amidst these days of woe and misery, ye find a time for harmless mirth and sport. But 'tis your loves, and we'll be thankful for it. Ah, sirrah, ye come like knights to hunt the boar indeed. And heaven, he knows we had need of helping hands. So many wild boars root and spoil our lands that England almost is destroyed by them. I care not if King Richard heard me speak it. I wish his grace all good, high heaven can tell. But there's a fault in some, alack the day. His youth is led by flatterers much astray. But he's our king, and God's great deputy. And if you hunt to have me second ye in any rash attempt against his state, for my God I'll ne'er consent unto it. I ever yet was just and true to him, so will still remain. What's now amiss? Our sins have caused, and we must bid heaven's will. I speak my heart, I am plain Thomas still. Come, come, a hall and music there. Your dance being done, a banquet stands prepared to bid you welcome.
And music, and they dance, and then enter Cheney.
How now, Cheney, is this banquet ready?
There is no time, I fear, for banqueting. I fear your person is betrayed, my lord. The house is round beset with armed soldiers.
Soldiers? For my God, the commons all are up then. They will rebel against the king, I fear me, and flock to me to back their bold attempts. Go arm the household, Cheney. Hear me, gentlemen. For God, I do not like this whispering. If your intents be honest, show your faces.
Guard fast the doors and seize him presently. This is the cave that keeps the tusked boar that roots up England's vineyards uncontrolled. Bagot, arrest him! If for help he cry, drown all his words with drums confusedly.
Am I betrayed?
You're muted.
Bagot is muted. Ye cannot scape, my lord. The toils are pitched, and all your household fast in hold ere this. Thomas of Woodstock, Duke of Gloucester, Earl of Cambridge, and of Buckingham, I here arrest thee in King Richard's name of treason to the crown, his state, and realm.
I'll put in bail and answer to the law. Speak, is King Richard here?
No,
No,
my lord.
My lord.
Away with him.
Villains, touch me not! I'm descended of the royal blood, King Richard's uncle, his grandsire's son, his princely father's brother. Becomes it princes to be led like slaves?
Put on a vizard, stop his cries!
Who bids them so? I know that voice full well. For my God, false men, King Richard's here. Turn thee, thou headstrong youth, and speak again. By thy dead father's soul, I charge thee, hear me, so heaven may help me at my greatest need, as I have wished thy good and England's safety.
You're still deceived, my lord. The king's not here.
On with his masking suit, and bear him hence. We'll lead ye fairly to King Richard's presence.
Nay, from his presence to my death you'll lead me, and I am pleased I shall not live to see my country's ruin and his misery. Thou hear'st me well, proud king, and well mayst boast that thou betrayedst me here so suddenly. For had I known thy secret treachery, nor thou nor these thy flattering minions, with all your strengths had wronged plain Woodstock thus. But use your wills. Your uncles Gaunt and York will give you thanks for this, and the poor commons, when they shall hear of these your unjust proceedings.
Stop snuff, I say, we'll hear no more.
Good heaven forgive me, pray ye forbear a while. I'll speak but one word more, indeed I will. Some man commend me to my virtuous wife. Tell her dreams have ta'en effect indeed. By wolves and lions now must Woodstock bleed.
Deliver him to La Poule. The ship lies ready. Convey him o'er to Calais speedily. There use him as we gave directions. Sound up your drums. Our hunting sports are done. And when you're past the house, cast by your habits and mount your horses with all swiftest haste. The boar is taken, and our fears are past.
So we've hit the moment of high dramatic tension. There's there's so much to say about this scene. It's interesting that Woodstock is almost Hieronymo and victim of Hieronymo in this scene, in the sense that we've got this sort of masks play within a play thing going on. He sort of feels like he's that Hieronymo sort of master of the revels game thing that he has. That long speech he has, does he sort of know, not that he's about to get horribly captured, but does he sort of guess that there's something going on there? There's something very weird about that speech that I really like, and I think we can delve into more at a future date.
He either knows, either he knows and he's speaking with a double tongue, which even though he's, playing Woodstock, we know he's capable of doing. Or the other thing occurred to me is like, oh God, has he had too much wine again? Because it reminded me a bit of that big speech at the wedding where it's like, oh God, just shh.
It's the thing is this false false lightheartedness as well, because his wife's just said that terrible things are going to come. He's already felt that himself, and of course, on some level, if he does have premonitionary powers, he possibly knows he's never going to see her again either. Because last scene he said he's never going to see his brothers again. His wife's now left, and if he's had that presage of doom, because the last thing he says is about his wife. And there's a moment towards the very end as well when, he says, is the king here? Yes, you're the king there. And should point out, that's the point where he's dead.
Yeah.
The moment he knows the king's directly in the room, Thomas of Woodstock is dead. He cannot survive. You can't come back from that because the king has to kill him now.
Yeah.
Just to make everyone feel really happy in this dramatic moment. Thoughts?
It seems to me that one of the things about being plain Thomas is that he says what he's thinking at the time, and if a thought comes into his mind, he says it, which I think would account for him starting to babble on about Richard in the middle of something completely else.
Unless there is the fact that he has realised it, which would explain why he's saying he's got nothing against Richard.
I think if he'd realised it, he would have said he'd realised it. Because the moment he hears that it's Richard, he hears Richard's voice, he says, that's Richard's voice. He doesn't think about pretending he hasn't heard it or being subtle. Subtlety is not us.
No. There's something going on with Woodstock throughout this scene, and I think that's something that's really going to be interesting to delve with. And also just that sense of, you've got the music, but then you've got the drums, and those drums that should be really quite. The place is surrounded. You get this closing in. And Cynthia, what's going on there?
Wow.
How did you find Cynthia, Sarah?
She was quite goddessy. She turned up. She did her piece in lovely verse. And then she buggered off.
Yeah, I mean, how good is she supposed to be? I mean, this is the thing. This entertainment has one purpose, which is to capture him.
Yeah.
So who is playing Cynthia? How much rehearsal have they had?
Exactly.
It's Greene. It's definitely Greene. I'm
It could be
convinced.
played that way.
I should have thought of that. I should have played it as Greene playing Cynthia. That's what I should have done. That would have been a lot funnier.
I should have doubled it, shouldn't I? That way. That's a really interesting. Is this Greene? Yeah.
Well, it isn't Richard.
No.
Because they couldn't persuade him to memorise it.
I mean, I don't know. Whoever's playing Cynthia, they've either maybe they're a professional masker and they've just been given lines and said, "Here, read these." But somebody knows something, because I think Cynthia's the first character to make a reference to the whole boar symbolism that Richard then picks up on later, isn't she? She's the first one who says the hunting thing, and there is a boar in this kingdom, and then Richard picks that up later and says, "You are the boar."
Was that something Richard presaged in the previous scene? I'm just wondering whether there's a bit of a hunting thing that came up there. I might be wrong there. I don't know.
I don't know. He definitely says it afterwards, though. So it's whoever's playing Cynthia. Either they've been given lines to read by the king's party, or it is one of the king's party who's making a deliberate double meaning that the king's going to pick up on later.
I mean, is it part of the cover that they're all hunting? So
Maybe.
Like,
It's an excuse to be armed.
Yeah.
That was my question. Is that not just the subject matter of the mask that they're coming in to allegedly present, and they're using it? They chose this subject because it gives them an excuse to be armed, because it gives them the symbolism of hunting.
I thought in the previous scene there was definitely an allusion, I think, somewhere to we'll devise a ruse by this mask or something similar to that. So I think that's probably that's a good.
And Cheney does deliver a sort of précis, doesn't he? That they or maybe it doesn't. No, it's just country gentlemen show their dear affection to your grace, proffer their sports. So no, they don't. But yes, that seems to be the logic of it all.
Just going back a bit.
Yes, Alan.
Well, on the this one we're having about the speak is King Richard here. Richard has already had 5 lines slightly before that. So unless he's using a disguised voice, Woodstock should be aware that Richard is on stage.
Yes, but the moment you say the king is there, you've openly admitted it, and everybody knows. So the king knows that you know, and therefore your life is forfeit.
Could we just go back to the hunt theme and the animal symbolism for a moment?
Yeah.
The reason I think it feels familiar to us is because it links in perfectly with the Duchess of Gloucester's dream. Every other animal was named as an animal, except for Gloucester, who was you. And now the story of the hunt gets finished by also determining him as an animal of prey.
She calls him a lion. She calls him an angry lion.
She says an angry lion and a bunch of wolves
silly sheep
came to hunt you. And then she refers to the king of the forest again as the lion. So
I misunderstood that.
A savage herd of ravening wolves, commons of a flock of silly sheep, whilst their slothful shepherd careless stood, those forest thieves broke in and sucked their blood. So there's that's Woodstock's interpolation of her dream, by the way. But her version is You were ranging through the woods, an angry lion with a herd of wolves had in an instant round encompassed you. So Richard being the lion,
Oh, okay. So
surrounded
he's
by
the
his
lion,
wolves.
and right. Okay.
So yeah, there's a, you know, where she picks that up. You're right. The whole scene arcs around this imagery, doesn't it?
But it's also interesting that it matches up, even though theoretically these people wouldn't have. Well, not theoretically, even though in a logical sense, these people would not have communicated.
Yeah. Yes, it's all, you know, presages of doom, and it all overlaps, and, you know, in a very satisfying way. Helen.
Cynthia, no doubt in a possibly a slightly sarcastic way, but nevertheless apparently genuinely speaks about Gloucester, Woodstock, in a way that he would presumably see himself. The people extol to heaven a faithful prince and peer, that keeps a court of love and pity here, reverent and mild his looks. You know, it very much feeds into how Woodstock would like to see himself. He is princely and he is beloved.
But it also has that double meaning, because Richard is actually there on the stage, and presumably whoever is playing Cynthia knows who he is. So there's a lovely kind of intrigue there, because yes, Woodstock's going to take it to mean that it's about him, and that's how he would like to be seen. But is it actually directed at him, or is he the boar, and is the prince actually Richard, who, you know, everyone else knows is on stage?
Well, there's also the contemporary for the play watchers contemporary elements here as well. If Cynthia is a moon goddess, and it's a term used for Queen Elizabeth, and when you're talking about Cynthia, who is against a tusked boar, you know, the House of Tudor against, say, Richard III, you've got all these little things that are also living within this, even if they're not the direct point. There's an additional sort of, at the time, modern resonance to the text. I'm going to have to wind us up now and go for final thoughts about this, what we've done today, and also what, you know, the play overall so far. We've lost the Queen, or we're about to lose the Queen, I'm afraid, everyone.
Is that genuine, or was that just to get the Duchess of Gloucester out of the house?
Genuine.
Genuine, yeah.
Okay.
Though the timing of it, she's I think in history she's long dead before Woodstock gets murdered or kidnapped, or you know, etc. It's all, you know, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. Sarah, any final thoughts about the play overall, or these acts?
I have two thoughts. My first is, I love that reference you made to Tamburlaine. I've been thinking about that since, and it just, if this playwright did know of Tamburlaine, it does provide a kind of gorgeous counterpoint to it, because in that play you had a man who really knew about statecraft. Okay, he was a murdering psycho, but he really knew about statecraft, and he deliberately you know, promotes his generals to kings in order to increase his empire. And then what you have here is this kind of crazy inversion of this, where you have someone who is already all powerful, and he's actually dividing up his own kingdom to give to these flatterers, because he has no clue about statecraft. So it's just a really tasty inversion of what was going on in drama at the same time, or slightly earlier. My other thought is this week's T-shirt line. Be not too pestiferous, I beseech ye. I
I
feel
mean,
I should.
uses pestiferous or just so many times as well.
It's his word. I feel
Yeah.
There's
he's
no
I'm not sure he knows what
consistency
it
in the
means.
meaning.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's just a word he likes.
Yeah, he's learnt it. He's learnt it, and he's going to use it. But I could
He's
do with it on a
definitely-
T-shirt when I'm dog walking. I think, be not too pestiferous. I
I'm sure that can be
beseech you.
arranged.
You could almost have one pestiferous means pestiferous.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. This play, we've mentioned Spanish tragedy, we've mentioned Tamburlaine, I've mentioned a few other things. This does seem to be feeding into the zeitgeist of other entertainments and other sources available. Alexandra, any final thoughts?
Regarding pestiferous, I wonder if it's its own period's covfefe. I wonder if it's something that's supposed to clearly represent an individual being persiflated. And also, it's a question that we don't have to answer now, but it's a directorial thing. There are lots of things that we've noticed, particularly today, that are really strong contemporary references, or things that would have hit really strongly at the time, be recognizable, that I wonder how in a modern production, a contemporary production to us, we would make hit as hard, like the loss of Calais or the being surrounded by intelligencers. So that's the thing I'm wondering about.
Excellent. Pamela, any final thoughts?
I, over the past few weeks, have noticed how much people love a play within a play and how much they want to be involved in the play within a play. So, the fact that everyone wants to be an actor at heart. And I guess we've touched on it on other days, but, how straightforward the language is of this. And even though there is so much double dealing going on, that we as an audience, it's very straightforward for us to follow. We know exactly what everybody wants out of every scene, really.
It does set up and then deliver the plot very nicely. It's not like a game at chess where you got the impression that they did stuff and then explained it afterwards in a way that was quite frustrating. Simon, any final thoughts?
Probably nothing original to what's been said already, but it is a very readable play, which is a funny thing to say, I know, because we've spoken quite a lot about plays that aren't necessarily readable but come alive when we come together. But this one's quite readable as well, probably because it's very plot-based, character-based, and very easy to kind of draw parallels with modern life, as we've said. So we can all get something from misuse of power and sort of personalities and egos.
Excellent. Tamara, any final thoughts?
Two. The first one is again kind of going down the theatrical directorial thing. I just in the scene where they decide on the different shires and who gets what of England, I kind of almost see Richard ripping up a map of Britain. Because there's something not violent about it, but jarring about what they're trying to do. So that it almost gave me a visual when we read it. And the other thing is that I'm just stuck on the boar for Woodstock, because as far as I know, and I'm no historian, but I am a fan, so to speak, because of something we can't talk about. But wasn't Richard III the first person to really pick up on the boar as heraldry? So
they're both Gloucesters.
Yeah, they're both Gloucesters. So it's
so this is Woodstock is Duke of Gloucester, so it does have a sort of, I don't know if the boar imagery that Richard III picks up on lives in the past.
I think the white boar was specifically Richard's, and not of the Duke of Gloucester's before that. But it perhaps the writer just decided that the boar is a symbol for the Duke of Gloucester because it was for Richard, so it must have been for the Duke of Gloucester always. So that's just something that my brain is stuck on right now.
Yeah, no, I think that's a sort of logical leap, even if it's not actually technically correct. I think that's probably going on there. Liz?
Well, actually, leading on from that, I think this line that Woodstock says, "Ah, sirrah, ye come like knights to hunt the boar indeed." That's a very wistful line. And then it's full stop, and it's though he shakes himself and says, "And heaven, He knows we had need of helping hands. I think, for me, I think he does know. And whether he knows the king's there or not, I mean, even if he says it or not, he's there. He knows that he's done for.
Helen, final thought?
Yeah, minor matter. A banquet is fancy nibbles set out on a sideboard. No, I mean, that's what I mean. It is. That's what it was.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good point.
It always confuses people. Lay out a quick banquet.
Yes.
And, you know,
It's canapes.
Yeah, it's canapes.
Buffet.
well, it's fancy
Desserts.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, it can quite often be desserts. I mean, you can have, you know, a banquet can be a load of lobsters all made with sugar.
Yeah. Alan, final thought?
The one about the wild boar I was going to bring up, I think we've already covered that, because I had a feeling there was a heraldic significance to it. And the banqueting thing, which Helen has just covered there, really. But it's certainly moving at a pace, and it certainly seems to work quite well, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, dramatic. You know, this just continues to be such a fabulous play. It really does.
Great.
It's working all the muscles. It's playing all the paces, the different paces. It's doing different things with different characters. It's playing comedy and tragedy. It's you know, and it's flipping them at moments as well. So you know, that whole thing with all those unfortunates getting blank charters, that is both funny, but it's also really dark. And how you pitch that scene is a really interesting question. But sadly, we have seriously run out of time, so I'm going to have to wind up this session. I'd like to thank all my readers this afternoon for joining us, and thank you everyone who's watching at home. Bye.
Bye.